Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Beth C. Moroney. We're going to be discussing her amazing book, The Bridge to Victory, available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and a whole host of other places. But if you want to gather everything that Beth has in store, check out our personal site. And that's BethClaireMoroney.com. There you're going to find more information on her, more information on this amazing book. You'll find hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. People, I'm telling you, it truly is a one-stop shop. Again, that's BethClaireMoroney.com. And I quickly want to point out the fact that Beth was brought to us by one of the best publishing firms in the business. People you already know, talking about Citi of Books. So for my writers out there who are looking for someone to help move the masterpiece that they've created, well, have no fear, because Citi of Books is exactly the ones to do that. Head on over to citiofbooks.com and gather all the ways that their fantastic team is going to help you do just that. And listen, it is a true pleasure to have Beth here on the line. People, I'm telling you, man, strap in for this one, okay? Beth has written a fantastically inspirational biography on her father, J. Dakelman. But trust me when I tell you, Beth Moroney, J. Dakelman, these are names that you need to be aware of. Jay was an incredible individual. She has comprised this unforgettable journey through history that is going to showcase heroism and heart. We're going to be learning about this powerful biography. Listen, I'm telling you, from a World War II veteran who not only braved the battlefield, but also transformed lives as an educator and as a coach. Through her deeply personal storytelling, we're going to explore his incredible resilience, his impact on countless students and athletes, and the timeless lessons his life offered about courage, service, and finding purpose after adversity. Trust me when I tell you, people, this is a book that needs to be added to your shelf. It is much more than a catchy read, although understand, it's definitely a catchy read, okay? I mean, you're going to be entertained by this, but you're going to be inspired. This is something that's going to help you really put some things in perspective, okay? I'm not going to dive down the rabbit hole too much, but just from the notion of having a leader, someone you want to actually emulate, whew, my goodness, all I'm going to say is it appears to be in short supply. Okay, and this book is going to showcase an individual that had it in spades, okay? Beth is the person of the hour. It's her book. She's written it, and she's going to be able to articulate everything much better than I ever could. Sit back, strap in. Beth, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm great, and I want to thank you, Benji. I'm honored to be on your show, so thank you so much for having me.
Well, Beth, I appreciate it. Listen, honestly, the respect goes both ways, and the honor is all ours. We instantly became aware of how important this book was once we started to do even a tiny bit of research on it. It just leaped off the page, and we understood the value it was going to be able to offer our listening audience. So the pleasure truly is all ours. Let's jump right in, Beth. I want to start first and foremost at the ground floor. Let's just learn more about this book. We're going to cover a lot of nuance, but first and foremost, The Bridge to Victory. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay. Well, the metaphor of the bridge to victory is actually the fact that I viewed my father, Jay Dakelman, as the bridge to victory. He was a young man. He was only 20 years old when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and he was a junior in college, and he was going to school to become a physical educator. And he convinced a group of his buddies that they should go down to the draft board and make a deal so that they could finish college by going to school in an extended summer session, graduate in October of 42, and enter the military right after that as medics, because a physical education major has to take so many pre-med courses. So the draft board was delighted to get at least a half a dozen young men as medics all at one fell swoop. Mm-hmm. And they and that's exactly what they did. In October of 42, Dad and his buddies went down to Georgia, and they became combat medics. So my father was assigned to the 86th Pontoon Battalion, 1st Army Corps of Engineers, and their job was to build bridges over the rivers in Europe that either were bombed out by the Nazis or didn't exist to begin with. So as a result, he was very captivated by watching as the bridges were constructed by the men that he rode with. He had his own motorcycle, and he frequently, bumped along the roads in Belgium and France and Germany on his little motorcycle. But anyway, when he returned after the war, he was fortunate enough to survive. He became a school teacher, teaching physical education, and a coach of 3 sports, football, basketball, and track. Mm-hmm. And he inspired so many young people to believe in themselves. Even though Highland Park High School, where he taught, was a tiny high school, they won more championships than most other schools in the state of New Jersey. He holds one of the greatest records in both football and track in the state of New Jersey. So what he learned during the war was how to take the adversity that he faced and convert it into inspiration to help other people see what they could be if they could conquer their fears and the terrible things that might have happened to them. So he was the bridge to victory.
Love that. Honestly, Beth, we could close out right now. Well, that was a fantastic marketing piece. My goodness, I got a job for you on my staff, Beth. Here we go. No, honestly, joking aside, though, that was incredible. And I love how you tied it in very seamlessly, because that, is going to tie into my next question. Because, listen, I'm so grateful for you for comprising this book. But I wanted to go now into inspiration, because as such an amazing man, an individual as Jay was, this could have been something that just stayed on your personal shelf, or even something that you just verbally told those around you. By taking a step forward, comprising it now in a book, and then publishing it for the world, you're introducing it to a much wider audience base. Why did you feel compelled to do such a thing?
Well, my dad left us 34 years ago yesterday, and despite the fact that he's been gone for 34 years, people still talk about him with such reverence, and I wanted future generations, particularly my granddaughter. I have one little granddaughter, Lily, who's 5 years old. I wanted her to know, because I won't be around most likely when she's an adult, to answer her questions about her great-grandfather. Yeah. And I wanted her to know what he was like. And the fact that in the state of New Jersey, Jay Dakelman is a legend. And I wanted her to know that, and I wanted her to know why. So I would say that teaching future generations, particularly in my own family, was the real motivation behind my getting it done. It was started a while ago, but it was the getting it done that was the hard part.
Yeah. People, I'm telling you, the book is called The Bridge to Victory. It's available for purchase through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, but make sure to check out the personal site, BethClaireMoroney.com. You're going to be able to gather so much insight and really utilize it for the inspiration that it truly is. Because I'm telling you, this is one you need to add to your shelf. You know, my follow-up question now, going into your particular writing journey, Beth, this is obviously something that, again, as I mentioned, offers wisdom, offers inspiration. So what it can do for others is a gift in and of itself, but I'm curious to know what it did for you. Throughout this writing process, what would you say was maybe the most emotional part and why?
Oh, that's such a great question. So my father and I were uncommonly close. As I've talked to a lot of my friends recently, who've read the book and knew, of course, that, my father, they saw him as Jay. Everybody was a little scared of him because, he was a football coach with a big voice. And even though he drove 5 of us to school every day for the 4 years that I was in high school, I ran the local bus. So I knew I had an uncommonly close bond with my father, much more so than other kids. And he's been gone for a very long time. Mm-hmm. So while I was writing this book, I had several uncanny experiences that told me that while I was writing the book, he was standing behind me and whispering in my ear, and he was watching over me. And I'll give you a for instance. Mm-hmm. One day I was thinking to myself, I really want to talk to one of the players who wasn't like a common player, wasn't one of the big guys, but just popped into my head. I wish I could talk to Bobby. And I had no way to contact him, absolutely no way to contact him. That night I was on Facebook, and he popped up on my Facebook, like out of the blue. Mm. And we didn't have any kind of relationship in high school. I didn't really know him, but he popped up on my Facebook account that night. But my favorite story was that my father had a professor in graduate school who was world-renowned in health and physical education. His name was J.B. Nash, and he was a professor at NYU. And my father took over 1,000 pictures during World War II, which was one of the primary sources that I had during the course of writing the book. And I was looking through all the pictures, searching for a picture of J.B. Nash because I wanted to put it in the book. He was a very key part of the second half of the book. Couldn't find a picture. So it happened to be Super Bowl Sunday. My brother was coming over to visit, and he walked into the house, and he said to me, I got some more photo albums for you that I found while I was going through some stuff today. So he hands me 3 thick photo albums, and one of them happened to be of college photos, which I had never seen in all these years since my dad's been gone.
Yeah.
Started going through the photo album, and on the last page, on the very afternoon of the day I was searching for the picture of J.B. Nash, was a picture of J.B. Nash. And to make it even more emotional, my father was critically ill at the end of 1990, was in the hospital for about 3 weeks before he died. And I wanted to watch the Super Bowl with him in late January of 1991. He was a huge Giants fan, and the Giants were in the Super Bowl that night. But he had been sedated. He was not doing well. And the doctors and nurses would not allow me and my husband to come down to watch the game with Dad. They said, you'll see him in the morning. Come down in the morning. Mm-hmm. Well, the next morning, we got the phone call that he had passed. And we rushed down to the hospital right away to see him, before they took his body away. And the nurses told us when he awoke that morning, his last words were, "Did the Giants win the Super Bowl?" And they said, yes, and he died. And so Super Bowl Sunday has become something of an even greater event in the Dakelman family because of that, his last words. What could have been more appropriate? And he died on the same day as Red Grange, another famous name in football. Mm-hmm. So they went up together. But so Super Bowl Sunday had this huge impact. And there on Super Bowl Sunday, my father presented me with a picture of J.B. Nash. And there it was. How can you not believe that somebody is with you when something like that happens.
Yeah. Well, listen, I think that's an incredible story. And Beth, I have to say it, okay? As a New England boy myself, you had me up until you mentioned that he was a Giants fan. My goodness. You guys took 2 Super Bowls away from us. I don't know if I'm going to be able to swallow that. No. Anyways, that's, of course, joking aside. They earned it. I'd give it to them. I'm not mad. Still bitter after all these years. No, Beth, that is incredible. Though I am someone that I believe life doesn't end when we take our last breath. So that is something that I find fascinating, and I think it just buffers and reemphasizes my belief in what I think happens after we pass. And what a great way, because my final question that I wanted to ask is really something that would have come out of left field, but it perfectly ties to what you were talking about in terms of his presence even after he was gone. Well, Beth, I'm going to ask you, if your father could read this book today, what do you think he would say about how you portrayed his life and legacy?
He would be very humble, and he would say, no, it's not about me. It's about my boys. It's about my teams. It's about how great they were. He would never, ever want to take credit. He was kind of bashful and very sweet personality. And when the players would tell me the kinds of things that he yelled in the locker room, I was like, what? He doesn't know those words. I've never heard him say those things, but I've heard plenty from a lot of the guys that I've interviewed in writing the book. But Benji, I would like to tell you one more story, and I don't know if you'll be able to use it or not, but this is one of my favorite stories about that came up in the book. When the war was over, in the Army, the United States soldiers were left to maintain peace in Germany. My father's unit was stationed in Bavaria, and the 86 was broken up, and he was with a bunch of other guys. But he said to them one day, I hear there's this shoemaker that is here in the mountains, and I really want to go and meet this guy. He's the one that made the shoes for Jesse Owens for the 1936 Olympics. His name is Adi Dassler. So he got a group of boys, and they went down to this factory, and Adi Dassler was renowned for making soccer shoes, which they, of course, called football shoes. And my father met Adi Dassler, who's a very handsome, very personable guy. And Adi Dassler gave my father 2 pairs of running shoes, and he brought them home after the war. My father said to Adi Dassler, well, I'm going to be a football coach someday, and I'm hoping that maybe I can buy shoes from you for my team. And so they parted, and then I took a young lady out to lunch while I was writing the book and interviewed her, and she was one of the young women back in 1960 before there was girls athletics. We had no women's track team yet in Highland Park, but my father took her name was Rosemary Heldrich, took her all over with the boys track team to run special events whenever he could get coaches from boys teams to allow her to run. But they couldn't find any shoes for Rosemary because there were no women's spikes available. So my father said, that's okay. I know somebody, and I'm going to contact him, and I'm going to get you shoes. And so my father wrote to Adi Dassler, and Adi Dassler sent the first pair of shoes from his factory, not for the football team, but for a girl athlete. And do you know who Adi Dassler was?
No.
If you think about the name, Benji, Adi Dassler, Adidas.
Oh, wow.
And when Rosemary told this story to me, I had the first part of the story about going to the Bavaria and meeting Adi Dassler. I had that in the book. But when Rosemary, we were in Panera, and when she told me this footnote to the story that I had, I literally was screaming in the restaurant, oh, my God! Oh, my God! And then this picture is in the book, by the way. a picture of Rose Marie in Madison Square Garden running for Montclair State University in college in the red Adi Dassler shoes.
People upset,
Yeah, that's a wow.
I listen. I often like to close out of shows offering a reflection. It's honestly, it's not even. You can't top a story like that. The only thing that I'm gonna say is when we talk about the perfect embodiment of a leader, someone that you want to actually emulate and follow. My goodness, man. Jay Dakelman was an individual ahead of his time, a trailblazer, and offered so much. Beth, what you have done by comprising this book is showcasing it to so many people who wouldn't have had the opportunity to know otherwise. People, the bridge to victory is a gift. You got to pick up copies today. And one last time, man, it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's BethClaireMoroney.com. Head on over there. Pick up your copies today. If this hasn't moved you, pinch yourself because you're clearly asleep. Something needs to change because you're just not listening. I don't understand. This is something that is absolutely incredible. Head on over there. Pick up your copies today. Beth, this has been a true delight. Such an honor. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Oh, thank you, Benji. As I said before, it's a real honor, and I've enjoyed talking to you so much. And thank you for talking about Bridge to Victory.